To this, please. This is basically how my life has unfolded through various family members that has wanted to bring destruction into my life in some form or fashion. And this is just another way of bringing destruction into an individual's life based around somebody not liking or somebody not agreeing with that particular individual. There's a couple words in here that kind of gets said that's inappropriate, so I don't advise for anybody young to listen to this. It's not terribly bad. It's not like it's X-rated, but it would be considered R-rated in what they say here. But please listen. Thank you.
Nut, like everything's fine. What's the secret? Because I need you to hear me.
Well, I hear everything.
Then hear this. You need help. Before this goes too far, you need help. Now, you got great cards here. If you keep your clothes on, you can do pretty much any goddamn thing you want. You want out, you're out. You want to bake bread, go with God. There's only one wrong answer in this whole goddamn pile, and you've got your arms wrapped around it.
Well, I said I was sorry.
You thought the hotel was overwhelming? You keep pissing on this case and they're going to cut you off at the knees.
I don't know what you're talking about.
I'm out there covering for you. I'm telling them everything's fine. You're fine. Everything is going to be fine. Everybody's cool. I'm out there running this price of genius story to anybody who will listen. And then I wake up this morning and I hear that you're calling this girl from Wisconsin and you're messing with documents and God knows whatever else.
How can
They're
you know
going to take everything away from you. Your partnership, your equity.
How can you know who I
They're
called?
going to pull your license.
How do you know
Marty
I called
told
Anna?
me. Are you denying it?
Well, how does he know?
I don't know. I don't give a shit.
You're tapping my phone.
Oh, Jesus.
Well, now, explain it. Tell me how Marty knows.
You're walking through a parking lot. You're chasing a girl through a parking lot with your dick hanging out. You think she didn't get off the phone with you and speed dial her
No,
attorney?
she wouldn't do that.
Oh, really?
I know that.
Really? You think that your judgment is state of the art right now? They're putting everything on the table. You need to stop and think this through. I will help you think this through. I'll find somebody to help you think this through. Don't do this. You're making it easy for them.
Michael, I have great affection for you, and you lead a very rich and interesting life, but you're a bag man, not an attorney. If your intention was to have me committed, you should have kept me in Wisconsin, where the arrest report, the videotape, and eyewitness accounts of my inappropriate behavior would have had jurisdictional relevance. I have no criminal record in the state of New York, and the single determining criterion for involuntary incarceration is danger. Is the defendant a danger to himself or others? You think you got the horses for that? Well, good luck and God bless. But I tell you this, the last place you want to see me is in court.
I'm not the enemy.
Then who are you?
I'm not the enemy.
Then who are you?
I'm not the enemy.
Then who are you?
When people want to superimpose their will upon other people, simply because they disagree or they feel this passionate move for some reason that they want to readjust another people's ideals or readjust another person's thinking. This is considered brainwashing techniques. And this is the very thing that I've been going up against now for the past 30 plus years, since I've stood out into the eyes of the general public, either from my dad or from my son or from my third and fourth ex-wife or from various officials or various school, church administrations, as well as cousins, aunts, and uncles. A matter of fact, I've got a cousin right now that is just gnawing at the bits to come down here to this property. And I have to ask the simple question, why would he want to come down into a war zone knowing that the vast majority of the neighborhood down here has opposed to the windmill ministry in some form or fashion. Once more, these hypocrites preach out of one side of their mouth that they want peace, they want utopia, but yet now they don't want to listen to the messenger that's got the message to bring forth the peace and utopia. While they're steadily fighting me or not supporting me, the world is being turned upside down. So I have to ask the simple question that if my cousin from Wisconsin truly wants to come down here and set up camp, what is his motive in wanting to come down here? Because he supposedly makes good enough money that I think he could probably purchase his own little piece of ground somewhere. That way he wouldn't have to be exposed to all the negativity in this area, to the point of him being subject to persecution the same way that David was persecuted, the same way that I have been persecuted in this area. So I have to ask the simple question, is he coming down here to try to have me admitted? Is he coming down here to try to persuade Juby? And Juby, why don't you dismantle the cross from your pole barn? Juby, why don't you plow up the Purple Heart representing the military? Juby, why don't you do this? Juby, why don't you do that? Which, once more, the tares have a right in feeling and believing the way that they want to feel and believe. But what they don't have a right in doing is imposing their right upon our rights, to the point of us continually staying on the path and us doing what we feel like that we have been called to do on this journey that we feel like that God has anointed us to be on. I have been up against opposing factors, resistors, ever since I have stood out into the eyes of the general public in one form or fashion, going all the way back to 1983, whenever the things occurred in a little town called Kenton, Tennessee, where my mother and my grandmother, and possibly even her mother, was raised up in. I don't know. I'm having difficulty in finding her biological mother, and not knowing any history about her towards whether or not she was reared up in Kenton, or reared up in Union City, or reared up in Kentucky. But that's another story on another day. Right now, I wanted you to hear the undertones in what this individual was saying. And by the way, what he was holding was actually bread, a bunch of loaves of bread. Looked like homemade bread, like maybe he was over in Italy somewhere. And I guess, to paraphrase, in what the actor was talking about, he was talking about money. Bread being money. That's what he was holding. But bottom line is this: the world is steadily getting worse. We're going backwards with divorces, shootings, killings, $25 trillion in debt, all these people being imprisoned. But yet no, I don't get no support from a support team or a congregation like Joe Osteen. So it's pretty obvious, the proof is in the pudding, that these people in actuality around in this area, and those who have heard of the windmill ministries, just really could care less, not only about the ministry, but could care less about true utopia and peace. I mean, even as I sit and speak to you right now, there's major protesting rising up all throughout this countryside in the middle of a pandemic. So you can't tell me that we're not living in an era of danger, an era of peril. Everywhere you look, there's something going on destructively in somebody's life. And I'm going to have to make a pretty swift decision within the next few days of this individual that is very disrespectful. He is very, very gung-ho in how he feels and what he believes, to the point that he is actually indicating some sort of form of violence if he cannot get his way by coming down here and living on the same piece of property that the St. Dale's Recovery Shelter is on. So I'm going to have to make a decision about this individual, which is my cousin, towards whether or not I should allow for him to come out here or not. And as of right now, from a legal perspective, in which he don't have a leg to stand on, as of right now, with his attitude being like it is, he probably won't be allowed to come down here and live. Once more, I don't know why that he would want to come down here and live, other than wanting to be influential in trying to jar, persuade his cousin, Juby, which is me speaking, away from the ministry and back into the hands of Satan. They just don't get it. They have lost in their competition. Now, this cousin of mine would tell you, well, he's neutral. He's neutral. He's not for or against what I've been involved in for the past 30 years. But how can you even begin to imagine somebody living on the same property that you live on, thinking that they're neutral, that they're not for you or against you? Because even Jesus said, for you have to be either for me or against me. And he who is for me cannot be against me in the supernatural spiritual world. So this individual is only tricking himself by thinking that he's going to come down here and play in a neutral, even keel, especially with all the animosity and all the rough cutthroating that has been done around in this area, in the magnitude towards the neighborhood and the church community, giving the Windmill Ministries a cold shoulder. I'm just afraid it's going to be hands down towards the individual finding him another place somewhere to live, to reside. As badly as I hate to say it, and as much empathy and sympathy as I have for the individual that is my cousin, but just like Christ said, that if they're dead in spirit, to let the dead bury the dead, and we as a Christian society must move on and not let these hindrances affect what we feel like that God has called us into. I have been dealing with this type of resistance. They think they're very clever. They try to be persuasive. They try to come at you this way or that way. I couldn't tell you how many times that I've had people try to institutionalize me over my religious beliefs. And it's not that I've ever truly been harmful to any type of public. There was one time that I tried to hang myself in the jail simply because I felt my life was threatened while being in the jail, and I needed to get out of that atmosphere. But as far as me actually wanting to bring harm and hurt to the community, my whole message has been a message of peace, love, forgiveness, the very things that the Bible teaches, including Revelations and, yes, Daniel, and a few more other scriptures in the Old Testament. And people know this, but yet now they sit idly by and don't support the ministry. And what they don't realize, they will be held accountable for not just the things that they was guilty of doing, but they will be held accountable for the things that they should have done that they didn't do. That's what I keep trying to remind people of, and then obviously it's going in one ear and out the other. Good luck to all of us as we try to be appealing to our own consciousness, be persistent in our passion, in trying to better the world to a productive, positive way of life versus tearing it down and destroying the world and tearing down each other. Because I'm truly afraid that if this individual comes down here, because of all the history that has happened in his life with his father, and all the history that has happened in my life with my father, and both of them being brothers, and he's already brought out all kinds of resentment about what my father done that he shouldn't have done, that he didn't feel like that he should have done. You know, whenever you have all these emotions and all this resentment, how can this individual even begin to fathom or to think that if we can't get along over the phone or texting one another pertaining to messages, how can this individual even begin to fathom or think that if he comes down here and moves on the same property that I'm living on, that we're going to be able to get along? I personally believe that it's a recipe to the degree that we're going to be tearing one another apart all the time, about bringing up old emotions and old feelings, old stories. And this in and of itself is a sickness that I've tried to put behind me. But apparently, whenever we get together, something about our chemistry just isn't matching to the point that we're at one another's throat. So why would this individual even consider coming down here on this property unless he was going to come down here to dictate, dominate, rule? Good luck to all of us, and shalom.